In Hollywood, making a choir sound massive costs, well, it costs millions of dollars.
Oh, absolutely. Millions.
Right. I mean, it requires these enormous sound stages, dozens of highly sensitive studio microphones, and they're positioned perfectly.
Yeah.
Plus weeks of post-production magic just to make you feel that earth-shaking cinematic impact in your chest.
Yeah, they literally manufacture the sound in post.
Exactly. But what if you had to reverse engineer that exact same sound, like that majestic, triumphant power, but using a local church choir? We're talking about, volunteer vocalists gathering on a Wednesday night,
Right.
standing in a reverberant room trying to pull off a multi-million-dollar acoustic aesthetic with zero post-production budget.
I mean, it sounds like an acoustic nightmare, honestly.
It really does.
Because when you combine everyday voices with huge orchestral tracks in a live echoing space, the default result is usually just this muddy, chaotic wash of noise.
A total mess.
Yeah, just a mess. But our sources today prove that it is entirely possible to pull this off live, provided you understand the actual physics of sound.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. We're looking at a highly technical breakdown of the SPW Worship project.
It's a really fascinating document.
It is. The whole mission of this analysis is to explore how this project perfectly merges classical sacred choral traditions with, modern epic cinematic arrangements.
Right.
But more importantly, we are getting into the step-by-step blueprint of how vocalists and directors physically execute this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can train a choir to sing this way, we have to isolate what actually makes a piece of music feel epic in the first place.
Yes, we have to define epic.
Right. And I always assumed the formula was just, crank the volume, add more instruments, and just have everyone sing as loud as they can.
And that is the most common misconception.
Yeah.
It really is. It's why so many amateur attempts at this genre end up sounding exhausting rather than inspiring.
They just tire out your ears.
Exactly. But the SPW Worship project analysis, it gives us two very distinct tracks to examine.
Right. Light of Glory and Strong and Mighty is our fortress.
Yes. And assuming you are familiar with basic musical structures, you'll immediately see that these tracks share the exact same DNA.
Like the tempo and instruments?
Yeah. They both utilize a 44-time signature, they both feature robust choral textures, and they both rely on grand orchestral instrumentation.
But they feel totally different.
Completely different. The emotional engine driving them is night and day.
So let's start with Light of Glory. The overarching theme here is contemplative adoration.
Contemplative, yeah.
And listening to it, it doesn't hit you over the head right away. It's kind of sneaky.
It really is.
You get these low brass instruments and this deep resonant humming from the choir. Just sitting inside this vast cathedral acoustic space, it feels incredibly spacious.
What's fascinating here is how the composer is manipulating structural tension.
Okay, how so?
Well, Light of Glory is built on withheld orchestration.
Withheld, meaning they hold back.
Right. The choir enters singing the lyrics. Shadows fall, but the light is near. But they don't overpower the room. They use clear, progressive builds.
Gotcha.
They're basically allowing the natural reverb of the cathedral to do the heavy lifting, letting the sound decay before adding the next layer.
It feels like pulling back a heavy bowstring. You can really feel the potential energy building up because the space is so vast and echoing.
Oh, that is a great way to visualize it. The tension totally comes from your expectation.
Right.
Because when the chorus finally hits and the choir shifts into that full tutti delivery, everyone's singing together on phrases like, light of glory, ever shining, he is worthy.
It's massive.
It feels monumental because you were basically starved of that volume for the first 2 minutes. And then the bridge pushes it even further with a layered crescendo on the phrase, holy, holy, holy Lord.
Which leads to my absolute favorite part of this track, the outro.
Oh, the outro is brilliant.
It's incredible. After all that massive layering, the orchestra just vanishes.
Yeah.
Instantly. And you are left with just the choir slowly fading out on the word amen in the reverb. It's stunning.
It really leaves an impression.
It does. But then, okay, flip the script to the second track. Strong and Mighty is our fortress. If Light of Glory is like a cinematic sunrise, slow and gradual warmth ending in blinding light,
Yeah.
then this track is like a sudden thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Just an immediate thunderclap.
Because the thematic core here is divine sovereignty. It's about unshakable protection.
So no holding back.
Exactly. So the acoustic space isn't meant to feel atmospheric or echoing. It's designed to feel imposing and highly rhythmic. You get timpani rolls and sharp brass fanfares right out of the gate.
It's aggressive.
Very. The diction from the choir is firm, immediately declaring, "Oceans roar and mountains shake."
And the chorus is just this dense wall of sound. You have these soaring soprano and tenor harmonies driving the phrase, "Strong and mighty is our fortress," and it just does not let up.
Not at all.
The rhythmic brass matches the choir perfectly on the bridge, punching out the words, "He reigns forever." It is relentless, right up to the final echoing chord.
And this raises a really important point about acoustics.
Right.
We have two tracks, both achieving that epic scale, but using entirely different mechanisms. The first uses vast space and delayed gratification.
Right, the sunrise.
Yes. And the second uses rhythmic density and immediate sonic weight. The thunderstorm.
So the composer has built the structural blueprint. But if both songs rely on the exact same 44-time signature and massive orchestras, what is the actual mechanical engine driving such different emotional reactions?
Well, the emotional engine isn't the volume, it's the structural tension and the manipulation of acoustic space.
But here's where my brain gets stuck. It's one thing to write a massive dynamic shift or a dense wall of sound on sheet music.
Sure.
It is an entirely different thing to stand a group of human beings in front of a roaring brass section in a highly reverberant room.
Yep.
Expect them to not just get swallowed whole.
Oh, absolutely.
How do they physically execute this without the voices turning to mush?
This is where we move from composition theory to actual vocal mechanics. The SPW Worship analysis identifies 4 specific techniques used to ensure the human voice cuts through the cinematic arrangement.
Okay, let's hear them.
And the first one is their brilliant use of humming.
Which, honestly, that sounds a bit basic on the surface. Humming.
It does sound basic, but they are using it as a human harmonic pedal point.
Using human vocal cords to emulate an organ's pedal point is a wild concept.
It is brilliant acoustic engineering, really.
Yeah.
By having the choir hum in the low register, you establish this rich, resonant floor for the track.
Like a foundation.
Exactly. It provides immense depth and grounds the entire mix. But because there are no lyrics, there are no harsh consonants or vowel shapes cluttering the mid-range frequencies. The melody can float right over the top of it.
Oh, wow. So you get the sonic basement without the lyrical clutter.
Sure.
So if humming establishes the floor, how do they build the rest of the house without the walls collapsing? Because if everyone just starts singing at once in a cathedral, it's going to get messy.
Right. So the second technique is harmonic stacking. Instead of a simultaneous entrance, they sequence the vocal layers.
Meaning they don't all come in at once.
Exactly. The basses and altos might enter first to lock in the lower and middle frequencies. Then, a measure later, the tenors and sopranos arrive on top.
So by staggering the entrances, you give the listener's ear time to process the expanding frequencies.
Yes, it literally creates the spatial illusion that the physical room is expanding in real time.
That's incredible.
And that expanding room is what eventually allows for the third technique, the wall of sound, to actually work.
Right, combining the full choir and the orchestra.
Yeah, when you combine the full tutti choir with the roaring orchestra, it relies on sheer acoustic weight. But you cannot sustain a wall of sound indefinitely.
Because it gets exhausting.
Exactly. The human ear acclimates to volume very quickly. If it's loud for too long, your brain just registers it as background noise.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Yeah. I always assumed making something sound epic just meant adding more noise and singing louder. But based on this acoustic cut technique, it sounds like the sudden absence of sound is actually what makes it feel massive.
Yes. You've hit on the core psychoacoustic trick of this entire genre.
Tricking the brain again.
Exactly. Our brains calculate the size of a physical space based on how long it takes for a sound to decay.
Okay.
When you have a roaring orchestra and a massive choir, your ears are just overwhelmed. But when the orchestra abruptly cuts out and the choir sustains a chord, your brain suddenly hears the sound bouncing off the walls of the cathedral.
Oh, wow.
That lingering reverb forces your brain to realize, oh, we are in an incredibly massive space. The silence frames the sound. It gives it scale.
But wait, if they are singing in a highly reverberant space to get that huge echo, wouldn't they just get totally washed out by the reverb during the actual lyrical sections?
What do you mean? Like, if you have a word like light with that hard T or fortress with the S, doesn't that just bounce everywhere?
Oh, this is the ultimate technical hurdle. Consonants carry a lot of high-frequency acoustic energy.
Right.
Think about singing in your own bathroom. If you sing a vowel, it sounds nice and warm. If you aggressively whisper the letter S or click a T, it pings off the tile and just lingers in the air.
Right. It turns into a hiss.
Now multiply that by 50 singers in a cathedral. If the sopranos drop the S on the word fortress a millisecond later than the basses, the reverb catches every single misalignment.
It would sound like a snake pit.
Yeah, instead of a crisp, unified word, you get a chaotic, lingering hiss that bounces around the room for 3 seconds. It completely destroys the illusion of the cinematic cut.
So the timing has to be perfect.
The synchronization of consonants has to be down to the millisecond.
Okay, so knowing all this, the pedal points, the spatial stacking, the psychoacoustics of the reverb cut.
Yeah, that is fine for a Hollywood studio where you can just do 6 takes to get the S right.
Yeah.
But the mission here is translating this to a local choir. How does a director take a Wednesday night volunteer group and engineer this blueprint?
Well, it starts before anyone even opens sheet music. It starts with voice selection.
Like auditions.
Yes. And the most crucial insight from the analysis here is that you have to prioritize pitch accuracy and vocal blending over individual solo projection.
I imagine casting for this is a nightmare for some singers because you are actively asking them to erase their individual vocal identity.
Pretty much.
You don't want a room full of Pavarottis or pop stars trying to out-sing each other.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you're not managing soloists. You are building a single, unified instrument out of human tissue.
Wow, that's an intense way to put it.
But it's true. The director has to assign voices based on timbre, the specific color of the sound, to create a balanced EQ.
So what does that look like for the different sections?
For example, sopranos need a clean, bright tone that can float above heavy brass without becoming strident or piercing.
Okay, and what about the altos and basses? If the sopranos are floating on top, what is anchoring the bottom?
Well, the altos are the glue in the mid-range. They need a velvety chest mix to provide warmth.
Got it. And tenors?
Tenors offer clarity in the middle-high range and must sing completely free of tension. But the basses, they have the most fascinating mechanical role.
Oh.
The analysis specifically notes that basses must use deep chest resonance to literally emulate low brass instruments.
Having a human being act as a tuba to anchor the harmonic foundation, that is wild.
It is. But once you have cast these voices, how do you train them to survive singing over an actual orchestra?
Right, because they still have to be heard.
Exactly. The pedagogy section in our source outlines some intense mechanics, starting with breath support for those huge cinematic phrases like forever and ever, Holy Lord.
It's a long phrase.
So the required breath exercise is inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 4, and exhaling on a continuous S for 16 counts.
16 counts. That's intense.
It is. But the why behind this is what matters. When you are singing these massive chords, your diaphragm acts as a pneumatic piston.
Okay.
The S sound creates back pressure. It trains the intercostal muscles in your ribs to release the air slowly and consistently.
So you don't run out of breath on count 10.
Right. And if your subglottal pressure drops for even a second, your pitch goes flat. And in a massive stacked chord, one section going flat ruins the entire epic illusion.
It's all structural integrity. And to make sure those voices cut through the brass without the singers destroying their vocal cords, the source talks about resonance and the facial mask, right?
Right. They use warm-ups like M-A, E, me, mo, you to focus the sound vibration in the front of the face rather than keeping it trapped in the throat.
In the mask.
Exactly. High-frequency resonances in the facial mask naturally cut through dense orchestral mixes. It allows the choir to be heard clearly over a timpani roll without anyone having to scream.
Which brings us to the craziest acoustic insight in this whole analysis, which is standardizing vowels.
Yes.
The rule is that for this sacred cinematic style, you have to use tall, rounded vowels. But it's not just an arbitrary stylistic choice, is it? It's an actual acoustic trick.
It is an acoustic illusion. The human mouth is a resonant chamber.
Okay.
If you have 50 people singing the word glory with 50 slightly different mouth shapes, the sound waves scatter, the formants, the resonant frequencies are misaligned.
So it sounds like 50 people.
Exactly. But if the director trains all 50 people to create the exact same physical space inside their mouths, those sound waves align perfectly.
Oh, wow.
The overtones stack on top of each other, creating a composite waveform that the listener's ear interprets as one giant superhuman voice.
You are tricking the audience's brain by perfectly aligning the sound waves. That is incredible.
It's pure physics.
So the choir's cast, they have the breath control, they're aligning their vowels, but then they actually have to sing the song alongside the band.
And that's the real test.
And the analysis heavily emphasizes dynamic range control. Specifically, teaching singers to generate intensity without just screaming.
Because the impact relies on contrast. If verse 1 of Light of Glory starts at a mezzo piano, moderately soft, the singers have to create tension without volume.
Right.
When it's time to transition to the massive chorus, the amateur instinct is to just yell. But the training requires them to use increased abdominal support instead.
Engaging the core.
Engaging the core alters the acoustic space inside the singer's body, adding depth and warmth to the tone. It gives the sound power without making it shrill or exhausting to listen to.
And this all crashes into reality when you integrate the live orchestra.
Oh boy, does it.
Because the analysis talks about frequency balance and EQ space, which is where a lot of live mixes just fall apart.
Because an audio mix is a finite physical space, every instrument occupies a specific frequency range.
So what does this all mean for the band? Are you saying that low-end instruments like the tubas, timpani, and bass guitar literally have to get out of the way for the bass singers?
Exactly that. I mean, think of frequency masking as a ruthless physical law.
I always picture it like a crowded highway.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Yeah, if the tuba, the timpani, and the bass guitar are all driving massive 18-wheelers in the low-frequency lanes, say the 100 to 200 hertz range, the bass singers can't fit their cars onto the road.
Right.
If they try, the sound waves literally collide and cancel each other out, or they just turn into sonic sludge.
Exactly. If the instruments eat up all the low-end energy, the choir's bass section is effectively erased from the room.
Just gone.
Gone. And as we established earlier, if the choir loses its bass section, its harmonic anchor is destroyed. The entire choir sounds thin and fragile.
So the band has to pull back.
Yes, the band must practice restraint. The instrumentalists have to literally carve out EQ space, pulling back their own frequencies to allow the human voices to sit in the mix.
Even the giant tubas have to pull over to the shoulder for the good of the team.
They absolutely do.
But even with the EQ carved out, singing in a wash of reverb makes it incredibly hard for the singers to hear themselves.
Yes.
Which leads to pitch drifting, right?
Which is why the final technical requirement is providing proper fullback monitoring.
Monitors, like in-ear or stage speakers.
Right. You have to feed the specific harmonic references, usually a piano or a clean synth, directly back to the singers.
Why not just listen to the orchestra?
Because in a highly echoing space, the orchestra's sound takes time to bounce off the walls and reach the choir. If the singers wait to hear the orchestra in the room, they will sing late, and the rhythm falls apart.
Oh, that makes total sense.
The foldback monitor gives them a direct, real-time anchor.
It really is a masterclass in absolute discipline.
It is.
We started this deep dive wondering how everyday vocalists could pull off a Hollywood-level epic sound. And the overarching answer is that epic is not about unrestrained power.
Not at all.
It is not about cranking the volume or being the loudest person in the room. It is about meticulous breath control, psychoacoustic illusions, precise diction, and carving out space for dynamic contrast.
Absolutely.
Whether you are producing a piece of music, leading a project at work, or just trying to communicate a big idea, the lesson here is that maximum impact is never achieved through sheer noise. It requires strategic contrast and unified alignment.
And this raises an important question, something I highly encourage you to explore on your own today.
Oh, what's that?
Think about that concept we unpacked earlier, the human harmonic pedal point, that low register humming used in the intro of Light of Glory.
Right.
Its entire acoustic purpose is to establish depth, to provide a foundational floor for the melody without ever cluttering the lyrical space. It anchors the room, but it demands zero attention.
It's the foundation that nobody really notices unless it suddenly disappears.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We live in a world where the instinct is always to grab the microphone, to be the loudest voice, to demand the lyrical spotlight.
Yeah, constantly.
But what is the equivalent of that humming in your own life? How can you provide that deep, critical, harmonic support to a team, a project, or a community without needing to sing the melody?
Powerful.
As the acoustics prove, sometimes the most massive, epic impact you can have is simply holding the space for the rest of the composition to shine.
What a profound mechanism to apply to everyday life. Find your human harmonic pedal point.
Exactly.
That is all for today's deep dive into the SPW Worship project and the mechanics of cinematic sound. We will catch you next time.